So one day after Nike unveiled their new Just Do It campaign featuring Colin Kaepernick, the National Association of Police Organizations responded by writing a newsletter to its members calling on them to boycott Nike. So Napo also wrote a letter to Nike's chairman and CEO, Mark Parker. And it read in part, on behalf of the more than 241,000 law enforcement officers represented by our association across the country, I write to you to condemn in the strongest possible terms your selection of Colin Kaepernick for Nike's Just Do It ad campaign. Mr. Kaepernick is known not as a successful athlete, but as a shallow dilettante seeking to gain notoriety by disrespecting the flag for which so many Americans have fought and died. It continues, the inclusion of Mr. Kaepernick in Nike's Just Do It ad campaign also perpetuates the falsehood that police are racist and aiming to use force against African Americans and persons of color. In reality, officers across the nation risk their lives not only protecting the athletes featured in Nike's various campaigns, but also serve aspiring athletes across the country who use the Nike brand through the thousands of police athletic leagues, boys and girls clubs, and Big Brother, Big Sister programs where our officers donate their time and energy. They deserve to have the respect and full support of corporate citizens like Nike.
What does the flag have to do with police officers? Number one, because that's what they brought up. Once I got past that part, then my ears perked up because I was listening to everything after that, because I think that first part was to get people's ears and people's sympathy.
Right.
Oh, you're disrespecting the flag, you're disrespecting the troops. Yeah. When really the intent is really about them. The intent of the statement is about them. They just kind of use that as some sort of lead in to kind of get people in a more sympathetic mindset. Also, isn't the subject matter, the issue at hand that Colin Kaepernick has chosen to be a voice for, police brutality and police misconduct?
Yes, it is. You are correct.
So it's actions, it's activity, it's behavior. So he's against specific behavior that's carried out by law enforcement. So the prime focus is behavior, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not, we don't need cops.
No.
All cops are bad.
No, it's not. He's made himself very clear, but what this police organization felt the need to do was to distort what his message was and to make it about the flag, which so many people have done.
Why is it necessary to distort someone's message? Why is that necessary? Essentially, they're straw manning.
Yes.
Not just Colin Kaepernick, because see, this is not about Colin Kaepernick. I think that's what we need to understand. So they're just using disdain for Colin Kaepernick, or expressing their disdain for Colin Kaepernick as a way to express their disdain for the topic at hand.
What I didn't like was the last sentence that I read off. They deserved, speaking of officers in whole, in general, they deserve to have the respect and full support of corporate citizens like Nike. No, they don't. Just being an officer, you don't just command respect just because you're an officer. To get respect, you must give respect. And so what Colin Kaepernick is saying is not that he doesn't respect officers. He doesn't respect the officers that commit these crimes. He doesn't respect those actions, like you said, those behaviors. He doesn't respect that, and that's what he is being that's what he is highlighting. So it's just funny, like I said, that he is this organization, this law enforcement organization, is speaking on behalf of all the officers across the United States and saying that Nike, by you affiliating yourself with this particular gentleman, we have to boycott all your products because we're going to distort the message of the person that you affiliate yourself with. It's absolutely crazy. But it wasn't just, I guess, this organization or this police organization that made a statement to Nike about Colin Kaepernick. There was another law enforcement organization that made a statement, and they sent a letter also to the chairman and CEO, Mark Parker. And this is from the National Black Police Association. So I have an excerpt from that letter as well. And they begin by saying that the National Police Association is not in agreement on this matter, and we strongly condemn the call for police officers and their families to continue or to boycott Nike and its products. So they continue by saying your inclusion of Mr. Kaepernick in your ads seems appropriate to us. We live in a country where the First Amendment is a right of the people. Mr. Kaepernick chose to exercise his right where his passion was, on the football field. NAPO believes that Mr. Kaepernick's choice to openly protest issues surrounding police brutality, racism, and social injustice in this country makes him anti-police. On the contrary, the NBPA believes that Mr. Kaepernick's stance is in direct alignment with what law enforcement stands for, the protection of people, their human rights, their dignity, their safety, and their rights as American citizens. So that was in stark contrast to the first letter. And no doubt, and it's very unsurprising that I'm in agreement with the last letter from the NBPA, because they got it right. They didn't distort Colin Kaepernick's message. They didn't distort his position. They actually correctly stated that it is about the unjust actions of the few police officers across this country that engage in police brutality, that engage in unjust killings of citizens. So when you call out bad behavior, surprise, surprise, you're not calling out everybody that, I guess, occupies that industry. Because there are some good apples and there are some bad apples, not just within law enforcement, but within the food industry, within healthcare, within
social work. Social workers everywhere. Everybody, every industry has its bad apples. And if you're talking about law enforcement, I think their bad apples tend to do a lot more damage because of the power that they have and the influence that they have. You know what I'm saying? And the authority that they have too.
The emotions that some of these police officers are feeling. This is nothing new. They feel very, attacked. They feel disrespected. They feel all hurt and all up in their emotions, right? And like I said, this is nothing new. It was just a few weeks ago that we noted that the Broward County Police Benevolent Association, they called on their members to request a refund to Miami Dolphins games because there were 2 Miami Dolphins players that kneeled during a preseason game just a few weeks ago. There were only 2 of them, not the whole team. But this association, they entered into this discount program with the Miami Dolphins with the expectation that the team would force its players to stand during the national anthem and respect police officers. But they didn't do that. There were 2 players that were kneeling, so they felt, like I said, all up in their emotions. And they were calling on police officers within their organization and in organizations in neighboring counties to request a refund and not participate in the discount program. If we want to go back even further, going back to, I think this was in July 2016. I believe so. But you remember the story about the Minnesota Lynx?
Oh, yeah, when the shirts?
With the shirts.
They had the shirts.
On the front of them, it says, "Change starts with us. Justice and accountability." On the backside, it lists the names of Philando Castile, Alton Sterling. It also displays the Dallas Police Department's emblem. And it also says Black Lives Matter. It was a shirt that was like, hey, we're supportive of Black Lives Matter. Like, we want to call attention to Alton Sterling and Philando Castile. And we want to support our police organizations as well.
Specific deaths, too.
Yes.
Specific deaths.
Yes.
So what should that tell you?
That it wasn't about an anti-police message. But there were 4 police officers that were off duty working security at the game who, when these players, the Minnesota Lynx players, were wearing these shirts pre-game, they saw this and they left their posts, left the building. They were working security and abandoned their responsibility because they felt personally attacked.
Think about that, though. Think about they felt some kind of way. Their feelings were hurt about specific people. So instead of maybe addressing those specific people and ironing out whatever they needed to iron out, they abandoned their responsibility to everybody.
Because they're there to provide security for everybody that's there in that arena.
And they have nothing to do with what those players want to advocate for. Those people have nothing to do with that. These police officers were willing to forego their responsibility as security and as officers of the law, in effect, everyone in like a tantrum,
Yes.
if you will.
Like a little
because they
tantrum.
disagree with those people. So guess what? We don't
All
care
of
about
y'all.
none of y'all.
Exactly. Because you in here too, sorry, we can't serve you. Because of these specific players that are not actually disrespecting us, but we're going to believe that it's disrespect. But anyway, it's good to see now all officers are signing on to that distortion of the message.
It's got to tell you something. Like, if there are officers that are not distorting Colin Kaepernick's message, or just the message in general, that should kind of cause people to ask the question, why are these set of officers doing that?
Why are they?